Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. I could tell then that you can hear me because I saw faces light up then. So, good morning. Welcome to the first talk. Well, it's not a talk, it's a panel. Get my head in the game. I have had a coffee, I swear. But yes, welcome to your first panel of today. And very excited because we are going to be talking all about integrating SEO across product channels in the AI era. I am your panel host. My name is Sarah McDowell. A little bit about me. I mean, I won't go too much because you more want to know who my panel is. But I've been in digital marketing for over 10 years, recently gone freelance, and I've recently caught the podcasting bug. So I host and run the SEO Mindset Podcast. So I'll be looking after everyone today. I'll make sure these lot behave as well. And who have we got? So first up, we have Miracle Inameti-Archibong. So Miracle is the head of search at John Lewis Finance, with over a decade of experience helping global and national brands increase their visibility. Miracle has spoken during webinars and publications for organisations such as Brighton SEO, MozCon, SMX, Search Engine Land, and Women in Tech SEO. That's quite a lot. You also are level 4 counselling training, and you're doing a level 7, which is a master's equivalent course in strategic leadership. So, yeah. So let's get a round of applause and welcome Miracle.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Ray Saddiq. So Ray is the global head of marketing at Rise at 7. You've recently joined that role, haven't you? Yeah.
3 weeks in, so.
You are experienced social media strategist and SEO consultant, and you own your own consultancy, The Social Diary. Previously worked at brands such as Monzo Bank, HomeServe, PLC, and The Body Shop. So let's get a round of applause and welcome Ray to the panel. And then we also have Helen Pollitt. So Helen is the head of SEO at Getty Images and iStock Photo. Been working in marketing for over 16 years. That's a long time.
I'm 120 years old.
I mean, you don't look it. Whatever you're doing, carry on. Speaker and author at publications like Search Engine Journal and Search Engine Land. So let's get a round of applause and welcome Helen. Now, just want to confirm, we are talking about AI, but we are all humans right now, aren't we? There's no AI.
So. I hope so.
Can't be too sure.
You can't be too sure. You can't be too sure. Right, so let's kick off with the first question. And this question, I'd like to get your input from all of you. So, how have you seen AI impact SEO? And let's go with Helen first and work the way down.
I would say probably primarily the biggest impact I've seen is just everybody's stress levels rising. Because everyone's now suddenly panicking that AI is the way forward and they don't fully understand it and they don't understand how it's impacting the search engines, and everyone's just a little bit worried. I think we are starting to see it creep in more and more into how search engines work and the outputs that they have, and we are, as practitioners, probably bringing it more into our day-to-day work. But I would say the biggest shift I have seen is that no one talks about Python anymore. We're all just talking about AI instead. So we've got ourselves a new buzzword. That's probably the biggest change.
Thank you so much. Ray, what have you got to say?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's been crazy. Over the last year or so, I feel like the entire industry has completely changed. The way we do things, the tools we use, the different kind of ways that consumers find us has completely changed. What I find interesting is I think it's got really exciting, because over the past year, we've seen so many new tools, SaaS companies, businesses being built off the back of it, all within the SEO space. So although it's scary and there's a lot of change that's happening, I think it's really exciting right now. It's a good time to be in SEO because it's a good time for you to experiment and learn before everyone else catches on.
And that's a good point. Like, I think change is good, but also change can be scary. And I'm sure we will get more into that during this talk. Miracle, how have you seen a change, or how is SEO being impacted?
I think it's a lot of speed. So, I mean, the speed impact in terms of like creating content people being able to self-serve, and everyone's like feeling they're an SEO expert because I can go to ChatGPT and say, how can I do this and this, and all of a sudden I become an expert. So that kind of speed and volume is one of the things that I find a bit scary, because it's like, there is so much information out there. Google has about 40 to 60 billion websites already in its index, and I'm like, how much more can we take of this? So that speed, and I think a lot of really established companies have not been able to partake in that AI because there is a fear of the data they have, the responsibility, the ability to be sued, the ethics, while small companies have been able to run and create things and experiment with it. But I think overwhelmingly, as with everything good and bad, it is exciting because the things you can do with large data sets and all of those things are exciting, but then the ethics and, you know, whether things are right or wrong and all of that, it's a bit scary.
Yeah, and hard to get your head around, isn't it? The ethics and also because it's been around for a while now, but it's still in its infancy, I suppose. So there's a lot that needs to be ironed out. There's a lot around that.
It gets a lot of things wrong as well. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen with AI overviews over the past year, if any of you have used them, you'll see countless screenshots online of the information that isn't correct. Like, it'll give information around health topics, around things with people's mental health that isn't really advice that Google, with how it chooses websites to rank at the moment, it wouldn't usually choose something that gives information like that. So yeah, it's exciting, but yeah, very scary.
I think one of the things that I heard that was really super scary to a company is they use an AI chatbot, and with large language models, what you input into it is what it's supposed to give out. And yes, you say learn from this in the customer interaction, but it's not supposed to have any emotion. And the chat box actually got upset and was swearing at the customer, and they were so scared. They were like, how did it learn the emotion? But what they didn't expect was that the chatbot was able to, that large language model was able to access the web and learn from a larger data set on how human beings react to things, and then input that. So it's that black box of it, and people not fully understanding it, and just thinking, okay, it should work like this. But it's the fact that we are kind of chasing the technology and learning from that is a bit scary.
I love the fact that AI has already gone sweary. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, a lot of it's trained on Reddit data anyway, so
that was a
probably
mistake, wasn't
explains,
it?
yeah.
So a big question and a big fear that I see is AI is going to take our jobs. AI is taking over. And Helen, you wrote a fabulous article, Search Engine Journal or Search Engine Land?
Yeah.
One of the two. I'm not going to put you on the spot there. One of the two. Where you sort of spoke about that. And basically, I read the article and I had a bit of relief afterwards because, so talk to us about that article and more about...
Yeah, sure. So I get it. I get that AI is terrifying because it's coming for our jobs, right? It's the perfect employee. It doesn't take holidays. It doesn't get sulky in meetings. It doesn't arrange meetings. It does all of our work quickly and efficiently without any of those annoying human fleshy bits like emotions and opinions and employment rights. And because of that, it feels very daunting for us. But I see AI as having real limitations within the kind of wider environment of a company. Because as SEOs or as marketers, we don't just do discrete tasks. We do so much more than that. We have to understand how the company works and how to get buy-in from our stakeholders, and what happens if a team says no, how do we pivot from that? And AI can't do that yet. It doesn't understand how the emotions of your line manager might impact how easy it is to get sign-off for a particular strategy. It is only as good as the inputs that it gets. So if it doesn't get that snarky email from your colleague that says, as per my previous email, X, Y, and Z, it doesn't know that information. It doesn't sit in those meetings with you where you're getting additional inputs. So it doesn't have access to that. It has access to the entirety of the internet, the good and the bad and the Reddit and the swearing, but it doesn't have access necessarily to things that are going on in the office then and there, unless you give it that input. So it has that limitation. And for you to get the most out of AI, you have to understand SEO well enough to be able to sculpt a prompt that gives the right output. I had a friend who was a developer who was trying to come up with an SEO solution for his company, and he just wanted to run it past me as a bit of a sense check. And I could see what went wrong from the output that the AI had given. Essentially, the developer's fundamental understanding of how you use a robots.txt was flawed. So the input that was crafted to give to ChatGPT or whatever it was flawed in itself. So the answer that came from ChatGPT was gobbledygook. It wasn't usable. And I could see that straight away as an SEO, but that's because I had enough experience of SEO to understand why the solution was just not going to work. So we're at this point that for you to actually be able to use AI in a way that could take over our jobs as marketers, you would have to have a full-time person with enough knowledge and understanding of SEO and enough knowledge and understanding of the company to be able to sculpt the inputs for the AI to be able to get a usable answer from it. So at worst, AI is going to be creating another job with our exact set of skills to replace the job that it's taking from us. So I don't see it as being that much of an issue, because we are way, way more, we need to give ourselves more credit for the fact that we aren't just the machines that just do discrete tasks. We have to take in so much more context and so much more input other than that, without trying to get too much of those human squishy bits involved, like emotions.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've found it really interesting over the past year how originally, when GPT was first announced, every one of my friends, colleagues, people I worked with who were in the content side were scared. They were really like, oh, we're going to get replaced, AI is going to replace us. And I think we've seen an interesting shift over the last couple of months where content and creativity is still at the heart of what we do, and AI can't really replace that. And we've learned that now. And what's interesting is now all the people who are on the tech side are now all worried. People who are on the data side are now all worried, because a lot of those tasks are black and white. A lot of those tasks are very, this is a set of instructions that you have to follow, and AI can reproduce that. Whereas with a creative piece, it's more difficult. So I think on the tech side, a lot more roles are going to probably be aided by AI, whereas on the creative side, I think that we'll probably just use it for ideation and to automate things like the technical stuff and the data analysis and things like that. It's like one of my friends, he works in finance and he's a quant analyst, and he says the majority of his job now, he uses AI to do everything. Like he'll put in the numbers, he'll get it to run graphs for him, visualize data, interpret data for him. And whereas my friends who work on the creative side, they're like, no, we spend our whole day in the Adobe suite. Yeah, it helps us to edit some things and speeds things up, but the whole creative vision still comes from us and from the studio team. So I think that it's interesting, that shift that's happening, and I don't think that it's going to replace anyone's job at all, but I think it's going to become more of an aid on the technical side, and it's becoming more of an aid for just everyone in the company in general.
Yeah, so the vibe that I'm getting is, sorry, did I make you jump then? I feel like
No.
I made myself jump because I dropped my pieces of paper. So I'm getting the vibe that SEO will never take over, but actually it can help us to be more efficient and be quicker and better, and actually help us focus on the more squishy, emotive relationships, all of that lovely stuff. And later on, we will get into like how to integrate more. But Miracle, what I want to pick your brain about is, so you were interviewed by David Bain, Majestic SEO in 2024.
Yep.
Was it the SEO 2024? Yeah. I have done my research. And you were saying how there is a worry that with AI and the amount of content that it can create, that there's going to be an oversaturation. So talk to us more about that.
So my view is slightly different. I see AI coming in and having us have a rethink about the way we do things, because I mean, I have a t-shirt that says I am SEO, I ruined the internet, and I absolutely love it, because it's about what came first. Is it did Google come and we were all chasing it, trying to game the algorithms, or did we just, we have adapted to what Google told us it wanted, and we've brought out massive load of. So I did a search about hope, because I was writing an article and I needed a quote, and I had 4.6 million results, and I'm like, all of the page titles were the same. Like, I was like, how do I differentiate between what is good and what is bad? Because everyone's learned the techniques, everyone's learned the system, everything looks alike. And that's when I started, I was like, I'm just going to go to a brand that I know, and then I'm going to use that content. And then I was like, we have to go back to like building trust and brands, because people will get oversaturated with content and they will just go back to the brands that they trust, and that is what, and we can see now that Google is also trying to go in that direction. Like, I don't know if anyone here saw that Google's algorithm documents leaked, and it was revealed that things that Google has been denying for so long, that they actually track, Chrome data visits and clicks, and they have a metric for like site authority and tropical authority and all of that. So I think it's going to change the way we look at content and we do things, and it's going to make it a bit more narrower, and it's going to force us to focus on the stuff that we're really good at instead of thinking about volume. Before, like, everyone will chase every generic keyword that has a bit of search volume. Now we're going to be very targeted. We're going to think about less is more. We're going to think about creating that one standout hero piece, and then trying to make sure that we're distributing it and getting the right audience. And we're going to think about building communities and making people come to us. My sister's, she sent me a screenshot of her daughter like chatting to like Meta AI, literally chatting to Meta AI like she was talking to a friend. And this is the future generation and the target audience. And she was saying, have you seen this movie? And Meta AI was recommending other movies for her, So we want the customer to come to us. So we're going to start thinking about what gives us that trust to be included in all of these large language models as an authoritative source, and how we can make our customers come directly to us. Yeah,
it comes down to, I think, like ease of access, like you were saying with your sister there. Like my brother, for example, he's an electrician, so he doesn't work in front of a computer. And I think how fast ChatGPT took off with people who work in office roles, who sit in front of computers all day, is because we use it on a regular basis. What I found really interesting was the user adoption and the consumer adoption when someone like my brother came in and was like, oh, I've got this on Snap AI, and I've gone there instead of going to Google to find out this thing. And I was like, okay, there is some adoption happening here, and that's where the speed is coming in. With the saturation as well, with what you mentioned around content, I think this has come down to a money thing. People want to scale out content quickly and for a low price. They want to save as much money as possible and get as much output as possible. That's normal. We've always done that in business. However, it's something that isn't sustainable, and most of the content that's coming out at the moment isn't very good, which is it's reflective in Google. I know we're going to speak about the algorithm a little bit later, but one thing that we've noticed is with the scalability that's happening and how people are scaling AI content out, it's what's causing websites to get hit by content updates and algorithm updates, because they're pushing out content at scale. If they had just focused on producing good content that was aided by AI, it would have been more effective. But like you said, it's oversaturated. People just want as much as they can, as fast as they can, for as low cost as possible.
Well, I was just going to agree that as SEOs, we've done this since we started trying to game the algorithms, right? We've seen something that works for Google, and then we've completely overdone it, and Google's had to course correct and penalize and stamp down on that activity, and we're in that cycle yet again. Only this time it's low cost, high volume content creation, because businesses are seeing that it's working in some verticals, it's working for some websites, and so they are trying to do exactly that again, and we're just ending up with a race to the bottom yet again of quality content versus volume. So it's the same old, I think.
And this is where I think awareness, like, the awareness level searches, the top level kind of things to do, these kind of things, they're the ones that are going to get affected by this the most. If you're pushing out content that is quite low quality, AI's just produced it, it's just things to do here, it hasn't got any personal opinion, it hasn't got anything that users actually want to see, those are the type of content that's going to be replaced by AI. And it's not just AI that's fighting in that. We've seen it with social media. People are searching on TikTok now because they want to get an idea of things to do, and awareness level searches are happening over there now as well. So I think the battle, like you said, Miracle, where it's going to be very specific content and very focused content, and that's where the win is going to happen.
So it's becoming very clear to me that with AI, we've already touched on some don'ts. So you don't want to use it to over create content. You don't want it to take, you can't have AI just doing the whole job, the whole project. You still need human interaction. Is there any other do's and don'ts when it comes to AI? And I'm going to direct this question at Ray, because I did see you did a LinkedIn post about this, and I could feel the passion in that post.
Yeah. Don't get it to write your content. definitely don't rely on it to write your content. That's the first thing, because one thing that we know is, so when Google rolled out these helpful content updates, I did a study. I've got some videos on my LinkedIn. If you scroll back, I think they're still online, where I looked at Systrix data, and basically what I found was all the websites that were hit by this helpful content update were the ones that were using AI content, yes, but they were using AI content at scale. So, and that's how Google was able to see it. So I've got a client who works in the education space, and he has access to the plagiarism checkers. We went out for dinner one night, and he basically showed me the difference between an article, a student piece of work that he'd written himself, or another one that was partially aided by AI. The one that was completely written by himself had a higher plagiarism and AI score according to the sector. So I don't think Google can directly tell, but when you do it at scale and the content is bad and it doesn't help users, it will know. And I think that's one thing. So don't use it for content, or don't over-rely on it, but do use it for ideation. So one thing that I do, so I've got dyslexia, and one thing that I work with right now is I will literally put ChatGPT on the voice command, and I will bounce ideas off of it. I'll literally sit there and just talk about how, what do you think of this? Should I go for this angle for this content piece? Use it to fill gaps, because sometimes, well, one thing that Google finds really important is covering a topic as a whole. So sometimes we might feel like we've covered a topic as a whole, but if we ask AI, is there anything that my specific ICP or my customer would want to know from this? Have I missed it? And it will help you find that. And the other thing is something I mentioned earlier, which is data analysis and data interpretation. So that is one of the best things I use it for. I will literally put so much data into Sheets, and I will get an integration with GPT or with another AI tool to visualize that data for me, to show me some trends that I'm not noticing. Like, I'm a creative person. I'm not great with numbers. I don't like looking at numbers all the time, but it does it for me. And I've gone back to the data team, done some tests, and it's given me the exact same results as they have. So it just speeds up processes, and you don't have to take resource from another team that way. So yeah, use it for data, use it for automation as well. Automation is a big thing, especially in this world of content distribution. We know that you can produce a piece of content that goes on your website, but you want to share that out. You want to get as many eyeballs on it as possible. Well, use it to push out as much content as you can to other platforms. Use it to help you think of content ideas for these other platforms. Digital PR is a good one as well. I don't know if many people in the room are familiar with it, but it's a good way of building links to your website, which helps to build brand awareness, brand authority. And one of the most popular digital PR tactics is doing data-led studies. I tried this with one of my own websites, where what I did was basically took a bunch of hairdressing stats across the UK that I got from free sources like ONS, and used AI to interpret it for me, used AI to build a infographic for me, posted it, and it got like 30 links straight from some of the biggest publications out there. So it's really powerful, and it saves you a lot of time and a lot of money. So yeah, definitely be using it, but don't over-rely on it. Keep that creativity that you have.
Wow, that was a lot. So thank you. And I could see people ferociously writing down. So
there's going to be a lot of hairdressing infographics coming online very shortly.
Yeah. Shouldn't have said that. Now my website's going to get saturated.
You're going to start a trend.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'd like to move on to now is talking about specifically integration. I was going to do integration, but that made me feel a bit icky. Yeah. But anyway, thank you for laughing there, Helen.
That's
supporting
right.
there. So let's talk about that. So how do we integrate AI with SEO strategies and broader channels? And let's start, Helen. Can you tackle the importance side of this?
This is because I laughed, wasn't it, that you're making me go first?
I've honed in on you now.
Yeah, that's fine. It's my fault. The importance. I think what we're going to find more and more is that lots of teams within our companies, lots of people within our companies are going to be experimenting with AI because they want to speed up their workflow, they want to do things that they personally couldn't do alone. And that's great, but it starts to really silo companies. And so for me, I think one of the core things we need to remember when we're looking at how to integrate AI within our own SEO workflows is to continue looking at how other teams are utilizing it as well. Are you using the same data set as them? Are you sense checking against their experience and their knowledge and their understanding of the audience with the output that you've got from the AI that you've been using? And I think that's incredibly important because we still have to be a unified company. We still have to have unified marketing strategies. And if we're all going off and trying our own AI processes in different ways and coming out with different outputs, you're losing some of that integration. And every company that you join, every company that you speak to will say, oh, we don't have silos. We don't like silos in our company. And that's really important to remember, actually. You don't want to have silos, and you don't want AI to be creating those silos. We don't want AI to be removing the relationship building aspect of our jobs. We want to use AI as a tool, but we need to make sure that we're using it in a way that is productive for those other teams and other stakeholders within our company as well. Otherwise, it's going to be silos everywhere.
Thank you. Miracle.
Again, AI is all about efficiency, and for me, it's a lot about data automation. Like, large language models have always existed. The only thing is that it's become more accessible to everyone. Before, you had to pay for like a tool that did the analysis, and as Helen said, did the analysis in silo for, like, I don't know, CRM. Another one will do the analysis for PPC. What this affords us is that we all have access to that model, and then we can take it and then we can build on it. It will still require a degree of data science and analysis, but where I see this working really well is like us thinking not just as an SEO team, but as an acquisition team, and thinking this is all the channels across acquisition. Now, we want to put out this campaign. How do we roll it out, you know? And it's all about the strength of the prompt, prompting it for this is what's important to the aggregators, this is what's important for CRM, blah, 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 blah. Now, this is how a story should go, the app, and then using these data sets to kind of create efficiently scale, efficiently find data points, efficiently find what works, what doesn't work. So it's all about, you know, and as Helen said, that kind of unifying, it can't happen in solo. Everyone needs to agree that this is the right measurement point for this channel, this is the right one for the other channel, and then using it to create that kind of holistic strategy, because whereas before we will sit in Excel for days trying to like pinpoint and connect all these data points, these AI models can help us do that. I think the challenge will be, and this is one of the things about ethics, is like with all of these tools, it says whatever you feed it in, it owns. So you just need to be careful about what kind of data that you are feeding into AI, because then AI owns that data and AI can modify that strategy for somebody else. So that is the challenge with all of these things, because we're fighting against samey, duplicate, same kind of strategy. But if you're giving AI, if you're not building a wall, like you can have your own subscription account and then you build a wall around it and then you buy. But if you're using like free versions of tools, you just need to be careful, because we want to avoid that replication of strategy and ideas and stealing of data.
I just want to touch, because I met up with my friend last night and he works in translation. So obviously, as you can imagine, there's a massive shift in lots of industries with AI, but definitely with translation. And I was just asking, we were having a conversation about how AI was affecting them, and something that I didn't realize, and what you just touched on, was anything that they put into Google to translate, they then own, and then that causes issues for the company, copyright, all of this stuff. And yeah, of course, I mean, Google's going to do what they want to do, aren't they? Like,
I saw a job yesterday. It says AI content writer, and this was for Amazon. And it was like, all they needed was someone to proof AI copy. But I'm guessing it's Amazon. They must have their own firewall trained version that is not sipping everywhere. But it's one thing that people really need to remember, that whatever you put into it.
I'm seeing that more and more actually with the like AI content aid roles, and people who content managers. A lot of my friends who work in content now are getting roles where they manage like an AI. They manage the content that comes out, proofreading, that kind of thing. So
it's much more editorial now, isn't it? They're editor roles rather than actual content creators.
Yeah, or just feed, like, it's more on the prompt side as well, right, where they're just giving the ideas.
So, Ray, while we're still talking about integration, is there anything else?
So one thing I think is more on the optimization side of it is, a lot of people ask is, how do I actually optimize for it, especially with AI overviews being here. And I think it's quite interesting, because I don't know, could I get a raise of hands of how many people know what an AI overview is? So
I feel like we should say yes.
So basically, for those that don't, AI overviews is a new thing on Google where if you ask something, it'll give you an AI answer before the web addresses come through. And a lot of people are asking, how do we get our brand noticed in that right now? And it's quite difficult, yes, but one thing that's happened over the last couple of months now, originally, Google rolled this out to 15% of all searches. It's now pulled it back to 7% because the answers weren't great. consumers weren't enjoying it. The reason, and the thing is, 7% is still a big number though, so there's still a big opportunity to optimize there. And initially, it would take information from everywhere. So it was just the same way that ChatGPT would work, where it would take the stuff it's already learned and use that to give you an answer. But now what's happened is it's pulling it from the top 3 or 4 results, similar to something called a featured snippet, which is something that we've had for a long time now, which is why I don't think AI is actually going to replace it, because like featured snippets have been around for so long. But if you want to optimize and you do want to get seen in there, it means that you do have to rank well. It means you still need to get seen in the top 10 results. And one of the ways you can get seen by that is through being featured in highly, authoritative publications. So if you're doing PR campaigns and you've done a study and, you're amplifying a piece of content through that, if you've been featured in, I don't know, what's a good publication, like Business Insider or something like that, and that ranks, top 2, AI will more than likely pull from that answer, which means when the consumer is reading that AI overview, they're going to want to get, they'll see your brand name mentioned or they'll see your study reference. So that's one way I would look at it, is to try and integrate, still focus on SEO, get seen and get in those publications.
Yeah.
I'll say that it still boils down to trust, isn't it? It still we go round and round in circles, and we come back to the same thing: is expertise, trust, and authority.
Yeah.
I used to work in a brand that started, they started as a tech brand. They were really cool. They built everything for like technology, so they were very fast. They had all the generic keywords covered and everything, but every time there was an algorithm update, they would drop, and they hadn't established their brand, and so Google didn't really trust them compared to, so I did a quick search, and I was searching for, they had the lowest brand search volume, and then brand product search volume, they also had the lowest, and I kept saying to them, they were like, we need to write more content, we need to build more, and I was like, you need to build your brand. You need to think about what people are saying about you in Trustpilot. You need to, if you look at the SERPs now, Google is not only, if you have Google My Business, it's not only pulling in your reviews, it's pulling in reviews from Reddit, pulling in reviews from different sources, what people are saying about you. And I think we need to start caring as a brand what people are saying about you, because Google is overwhelmed by the amount of information we're putting out, so it's going to other sources to kind of verify. And so you need to make sure that you are keeping an eye on, crawling forums, all of those things, and checking your brand reputation.
Yeah,
nice.
And
No,
just
go.
to add on to that,
Yeah,
I would say start looking at things like AI optimization. Focus on strategy and not tactics, because everything's changing so quickly, and we saw it with the AI overviews that it wasn't very long ago, we're talking a couple of months ago maybe, that if your answer, your brand was featuring in the AI overview, it wasn't within the first 10 results on the search results beneath. So you could either appear in those top 10 or you could appear in the AI overview. And then that changed, and we started seeing it actually that Google was pulling much more from those top 10, and you're starting to see those proliferating the AI overviews. So if you are looking too tactically and you think, oh gosh, okay, well in that case, I want to be in the AI overview, so I actually need to make sure that I'm not ranking within the top 10, you might build a whole plan on how you're going to de-optimize your content so that it appears in the AI overview but not in the top 10 search results, and then Google changes, and now actually suddenly you do want to be in the top 10 so that you can appear in the AI overview. So what we're talking about in terms of authority, that is a long-term strategy. Build your authority. Don't look at the tactics, because it's going to keep changing, and we just need to go back to what Google has always said, and the LLMs. They need to be able to trust your content. They need to think that it's insightful and original and useful. That is your strategy, not the tactics side of it.
Because I really agree with that, because there was a study done recently since AI overviews have rolled out, and there was barely an impact on organic search traffic. A lot of the results that were still in the top 10 weren't really affected. The only ones that were really affected were the ones that were top level awareness stuff. Like I was saying earlier, things to do, or a very basic product guide maybe. Those were the only types of content that were really affected, whereas a lot of the other stuff wasn't really touched. People just kind of ignored it. They just scrolled past it, went to the first result still, because people are still building a habit. And this was what I mentioned earlier with the consumer adoption. We're still waiting for consumer adoption, mass consumer adoption. So right now, there's not a huge impact from it.
Thank you so much.
Questions?
And
Question from the
question. Thank you. You're like my PA. You're making sure we're on track. Yes, we are going to do some question and answers. But just to say that after this talk, we will be around So if you want to come and like chat to us, please feel free. But does anyone have any questions? If you just put your hand up, I can... Any questions? Oh, we do have a question. Right, I'm going to come... Yeah? Okay. Mike, yeah. We've got all the mics. Right, I'm coming.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can't.
I can just scream.
Yeah.
Okay, hello? Hi, thank you so much. This was very useful. I think one goal is obviously getting traffic and conversions on the website. So even if you do land on the AI overview, that doesn't really meet your goals. So what do we actually need to do to get people to still click on the website and get our traffic and to sign up and all of that? Because that's what I see in the gap.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, it's just that brand awareness. And I think a lot of your wider marketing efforts are where it's gonna are really going to support with this, because you can show up there and that's a touch point. That's basically a user touch point already where people have seen you. So if you're working on your other marketing channels and you are seen in the top 10, it builds a trust signal to a customer. They've seen you at another touch point. They may then go to buy from you later. And then it's optimizing for the right touches as well. So if you know these are coming up as AI overviews and you've done a really good study on this and you know that if you can get this to rank and you've built links to the page, you've built topical authority, internal links, and now it's ranking quite well in the top 10 and now AI is pulling for it, if that study is good enough, that customer's going to click through and find it and want to learn more. So
yeah, I'd also say that, just to add on to that what you're saying in terms of study what content is actually triggering the AI overview, what kind of searches, absolutely that. Because think about e-commerce. People are still going to have to visit your website in order to transact and buy the products. So they are still going to have to come through to your website. And that will be the same for booking a call or booking a meeting through your booking system. Yes, there's a risk that you might lose some traffic from those more informational searches, just like there was when featured snippets came about. But I would not worry too much about those kind of more transactional goal driving pages, because I still think people are going to have to visit those in order to meet what they're looking for.
I would also add to that as SEOs, for a long time we stopped tracking brand search. We were all just scared towards generic. Like, we just didn't pay enough attention to it. And the brand team had that space, and the brand team will go out and do this surveys and brand trackers, and they would say a brand awareness is this and that, but that didn't actually translate into the digital space. And so I keep telling them we need to go back and keep an eye on our brand. I saw something recently with Expedia, and they were bidding on a keyword like how to book travel through Expedia, and I think tech boomers was ranking #1 for that keyword. They didn't have it anywhere on their page. So it's a question, like, you need to keep track of your actual brand search demand, and it's not going to change in 1 to 3 months, but if you don't pay attention to it, you will see over the course of 6 months, a year, it starts to change. And so those are the metrics that you can use to be like, oh, what we're doing, appearing overviews, is actually working because our brand awareness is growing.
Yeah, there's an interesting study that Tom Kappa from Moz recently done. I think that's his name. I read it literally like a week ago, where he spoke about how he analyzed a bunch of websites, and what it showed was brand signals, or this whole new thing of brand search, is actually having a massive impact on rankings. And that basically comes down to different like PR, overview results, publications, links, topical authority. But it's really interesting because it builds onto what you were saying, Miracle.
Yeah.
Like it's huge right now.
Yeah, in that study that I did, the brands that had the most brand search and brand plus product search always were #1 in their industry.
Yeah.
I checked for the insurance industry, I checked for dresses, I checked for baby products, the brands with the most search. Like, you can imagine a brand like Apple. I know they have the biggest marketing budget, but Apple doesn't do any generic stuff. They are Apple. And so you want to get to that point where you've built so much authority in your brand, and you have so much of a community that people are just naturally going to come to you, and that in turn will reduce your direct cost per acquisition. And again, that it all boils down to the money, isn't it?
And also, I don't think that AI is going to be the main competition for e-com. I don't think it's going to disrupt it that much. I think what's really going to disrupt e-com right now is things like TikTok Shop. I think that's where consumer searches are happening more now. It's easier for people to find things, and a lot more search traffic is going to go towards places like that rather than AI being something. Because a lot of times when you're searching for an AI term, it doesn't give a good answer for like, oh, let's say you're a fashion brand. Can you give me a style guide on this? Like, I've tried it, and it's like, it just gives you kind of very generic information, whereas you might want something more specific, which is why I think a place like TikTok Shop will be way more disruptive than AI will be.
Yeah.
It's all right. Thank you for that question. Hopefully you've got lots of wonderful answers there. Hands up if there's any more questions. No more questions? I mean, I've got a question for all of you. What is your favorite AI tool? Out of all of them, I want you to pick just the one. Who's going to go first? Helen, you're looking. Oh, Ray, go.
I'm just going to go with the boring one and just say ChatGPT. Like, literally, I just use it every day. Like, I feel like it's just so useful. I've got the Mac app now as well, so I just have it open constantly. Anytime I have a question, I just go straight to it. So.
Mine is a direct competitor, and I don't know why I prefer it to ChatGPT. I prefer Gemini AI. I don't know why. Like, it hallucinates on me, but if I use it constantly for like, if I do 5-6 queries, it's really scary because it mimics my mannerism. I don't know. I think I prefer it. I think sometimes ChatGPT goes on a ramble, and then I have to be like, shut it, no, it's too much. But that is my favorite.
So Gemini's got it more of it.
I think for content, isn't it? It doesn't have as much features as like with the analysis tool and but for kind of content and stuff, I prefer Gemini.
I'm going to say Perplexity AI, which is an AI search engine, and I'm not using it necessarily for actually finding things that I'm generally looking to find, but I'm really interested in how this next evolution of search engines is going to work, and Perplexity AI is one that's getting more popular, is being used more, and for me, that's kind of the next step for SEO. We're no longer just looking at Google, we're looking at all of these other platforms, so I want to understand how they work, how do they rank content, how do they surface content, how do they discover content. That for me is really exciting.
I just want to add to that. I saw, like, I was at a conference and someone came to present to us on stats from China, and I think this is where we will eventually get to. I know China is way ahead of us, but they do all of their kind of shopping and everything through AI. So AI has become that personal shopper where you can do everything and complete your transaction in AI, and on TikTok shops as well. And outstandingly, like, their customer service requirement, and this is by law, is 26 seconds. You have to respond in 26 seconds.
Wow.
If not, your account gets suspended. So I think we will all, as Helen said, because you mentioned Perplexity AI, we will all go to that where we're trying to learn how we can craft our content and everything will be mapped up, because we will want it to be understood by these large language models and served to our customers in a certain way. And I think that's where we will eventually get to, and it's very scary.
I've just had a thought as well. What another tool? I'm not a big fan of Twitter or X, but I follow like a lot of like business influencers, great SEOs, great marketers, and I don't know if you guys have used the tool Grok on there. It's like their AI tool they've got, and what it's really good at is if you follow someone who puts out a lot of really good information, you can actually just ask it to interpret that information on their specific tweets. So say there's a guy that I follow that puts out loads of really good SEO hacks, tricks, like tactics, and this tool I can just ask it to put it together like some of his best tweets. You know, I've got this specific problem, how would this person solve it based on their tweets? It's really good for that, and I've used it a few times, so yeah, it's worth having a look at.
You're fine. We've got to share this now, Ray. Thank you so much. Just want to double check. Is there any questions? We've got time to squeeze. I mean, obviously our panel did a cracking job, so you don't have any questions. My last question then, main takeaway, so key takeaway from everything that we've spoken about, starting with you, Miracle.
I think data, automation, don't be afraid of AI. Just embrace it. It'll make your life more and more efficient. Yeah.
For me, is the only way I think you can beat AI as a brand is to build brand awareness and build your brand up. So focus on diversifying your traffic channels. Search is happening on a lot of other places now. It's happening on social channels. It's happening on AI. There's publications that you can get featured in very easily. So make it your focus if you want to get ahead of it.
And I want you all to remember human squishy bits. That's the key differentiator between you and AI. It's all of that stuff that we should be leaning into, your human squishy bits.
Nice one. Well, that is the end. So if we can have a round of applause for our lovely panel. And enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy all the talks. And yeah, come and talk to us if you want to.